Alrighty, so season 2 of Peacemaker has ended, and it was the perfect timing to be able to get this helmet printed and sand it down, paint it, everything right before the show ended because I was kind of worried I couldn't get it to be as reflective as I want it to be, but it's good enough. And honestly, with most of these 3D helmets that I make, I usually size them up, and I was worried about this one, but with just a little bit of padding, I'd say it looks pretty good. So I did not talk about season 1 of Peacemaker, but because season 1 came out 2022, something like that. My wife and I did not watch it till maybe a month before season 2 of Peacemaker came out. And so it was very fresh for me. I feel honestly kind of bad for the people who had to sit there and wait 3 years for a sequel. But I was curious to see how they would try to humanize Peacemaker to an extent after he was such a villain, basically, in the Suicide Squad. And not to hang on to season 1 too much, but I thought they did a wonderful job. I didn't care for John Cena as an actor beforehand, but I really like him as an actor after watching Peacemaker. And in season 2, I'll say it from the beginning. Season 2, I enjoyed it overall. Now, it's a bit odd, the new DCU with James Gunn at the helm. It is nice that he's more structured and in charge of how things are going to play out. So it's not just like, what do we do? I get random director of this. There's like a goal set in mind, and then you work from that. And so he did Superman, which is the official first movie of the DCU, although Creature Commandos and Peacemaker now are a part of the DCU, technically. And so how they retcon that is a recap from season 1 where all the mentions of the Justice League have now been changed to the Justice Gang. And instead of the Justice League showing up at the end, it's the Justice Gang. Kind of, an easy cop-out, I guess. But it's like, fine. Whatever. That, it's the established universe. There's a lot of things now, though, where you're kind of like, so the Suicide Squad movie did happen, or parts of it happened, and even David Ayer's Suicide Squad movie gets mentioned, so you're like, the pieces of that happened, I guess? Or you're going to pull whatever you want. When you watch the trailer for Peacemaker Season 2, you kind of get the idea, at least from what they had alluded to, is the dimensional door portal that that his dad used. It would kind of justify Peacemaker going to the new DCU universe. But that's not really what happens. This season, it's, I would say, less about the Peacemaker identity, and it's more about Christopher Smith, the character. He's not in the Peacemaker outfit too much, and it really, really focuses on like his character and his relationships with the 11th Street kids, and like who he wants to be, or what he's trying to be, and feeling like he can't escape his past actions and who he's been for such a long part of his life and the things that led him up to those things. So it was really nice to see more like dialogue and character interactions. It was interesting. So they show it in the trailer, basically, and there is going to be spoilers, so I guess I can get to spoilers. Overall, the season, it's very character focused and emotional, great, with some new things established for the world. I think it's worth watching, both season 1 and season 2, but it's not for everyone. Now, I'm going to kind of start getting into spoiler territory, but yeah, a big part of this season is the whole dimensional door, and not necessarily learning more about it, but just it being used more, because Chris, Peacemaker, goes to another dimension where his brother is not dead, and his dad also is not dead, and is not necessarily a racist asshole. And so he keeps, I mean, basically for the entire show up until the last episode, he keeps going to that other world. And, he's like, oh my God, like my life's amazing because throughout the whole season, it's alluding to like something happened on a boat with Harcourt. And, you keep thinking, oh God, they like, had sex or whatever. And so he's so dead set on like, oh my God, like if you don't like me, what's the point of me even being here? And Argus is hunting him down. Rick Flag Sr. is hunting him down because, he killed Rick Flag in the Suicide Squad. So he wants justice for his son. And he also, uses the excuse like, we need that dimensional portal because what if he tries doing what Lex Luthor did and rips a hole through the earth again? And so it's kind of like that BS facade on why he just basically wants to punish Peacemaker. And so it was kind of annoying that probably, I think for the first, there's 8 episodes. I'd say for the first 3 episodes, maybe even 4, it kind of felt like a back and forth of him going to the other dimension, doing some stuff, coming back. Argus is about to hunt him down, and then it cuts off. And then Argus is hunting him down again, and then he's going to the other world, and it felt like kind of the same thing with just an inkling of new stuff every episode. And I kept going, okay, I as much as I love the character stuff, like is it going to pay off because you keep going back and forth between dimensions? And it was almost a little too obvious when he's just like, this world is perfect, I don't want to go back, this world is perfect. You're like, well, in every form of media ever that does this, where it's like, this is the perfect world, something's going to be wrong. And there were a lot of theories, and it turns out the theories are right, and that the other dimension, the Nazis won World War II, and so the world is racist, and minorities, and, the minorities in general get put in camps and stuff. It's, it's horrific. And so you're like, oh man, they gotta escape that world. And it happens very, very fast. And you go, okay, there's some bonding moments while they're in the other world because the 11th Street Kids and Judo Master are in that world too to go find Peacemaker. And Judo Master starts bonding with Adebayo about Peacemaker. She's like, he's my best friend. Like, if you got to know him, you wouldn't hate him so much. Peacemaker realizes because he just wanted to be with his brother and dad so bad, he ignored the fact that there were the most obvious signs that this was Nazi world, because there's a mural of Hitler that he's walked by like a million times that he didn't notice. There's Nazi swastika American flags everywhere. He didn't notice that either. And so it was like, oh yeah, like he's just so dead set on wanting to be with his family again that he literally ignored the most obvious signs. And, he's being kind of annoying. He just keeps asking Harcourt, like, what are we? What are we? Boo, boo, boo. Do you like me? Do you like me? And she's like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. And you are like, wow, he's like weirdly emotionally like stunted. But it makes sense for his character because his dad was a huge racist who made him fight his own brother and kill his brother when they were kids, and always just like said the worst things to him. So you're like, okay, I for the most part it makes sense. But basically, I would say episode 1 through 7 of 8 is focused on that, like their kind of relationship, but their back and forth between being hunted by Argus and seeing the other world in the other dimension. And then it just kind of closes off that story and goes to like focusing 100% on Argus. Chris is just like, I'm done being Peacemaker because everyone around me dies. And you know what? Before I finish that, you find out that his dad in the other dimension, the Blue Dragon, is actually not a racist. And he gives this amazing speech where he's like, I do what I can within my limits of the world I live in. But he's like, I raised my kids to not be a racist piece of shit, but we learn how to survive in this world. Because, he's out there killing the cops and stuff, and he literally lets Peacemaker and the gang leave. Whereas the son, Keith, is like, no, he killed your son, my brother. We can't just let this Peacemaker go. And the dad is like, There's been enough bloodshed and trouble. Let them go. Like, no good will come of this. We'll figure this out. And so you're like, wow, okay. And he gives this whole speech, and then unfortunately, Vigilante and the other world Vigilante end up killing him, and they almost kill Keith too. And that's when Peacemaker kind of has a mental breakdown, and then they go back to their world. But it's one of those things where that was kind of the finish, but it kind of hangs on the brother, where you're like, oh, is the last episode going to involve him? But the last episode does not involve that other dimension anymore. Instead, it just felt like this rushed, different, completely story, in my opinion, to the rest of the season, where it just now is about Argus using the portal to go find other Earth-like worlds. And something this episode I felt like was so guilty of is it just kept doing montages nonstop. I understand a montage to get a point across. I don't think you should do 2 to 3 montages in one episode to get your point across, because you planned it out incorrectly. So now you have to rush everything in one episode. And this is more of a gripe for season 1, but in season 1, the amount of times James Gunn likes to use licensed music to get the tone of a scene or whatever is almost like so self-serving, pretentious, and gross. Because so many people will criticize Suicide Squad 2016 or whatever for using licensed music nonstop. But then when it comes to James Gunn, they always let it go. And I'm like, dude, chill on the licensed music. My God. And in season 2, he was very good about not doing it. But that last episode, Jesus Christ, he could not help himself. It was just licensed music after licensed music. And then the intro, as much as I like the intro song, the dance choreography, whatever, I like it. I don't ever skip it. I did not have to hear that song 3 times throughout the episode. It's the intro, they play it again, and then you get the actual band doing a live concert, and it's the entire song in its entirety, when we already got another band called like Full Nelson did a whole song earlier in the episode. So you have the intro, you get the intro song again, then you get 2 full concert songs, and it just felt like, is this really necessary? I felt like you could have pushed these flashbacks throughout the season so it led up to this moment, so you didn't have to package all of the fucking memories, flashbacks, into one episode. Mind you, this last episode was an hour long, and so it just kind of felt like a slap in the face, like, dude, are you serious right now? And they did the montages where the cyborg girl, Sasha Bordeaux, Rick Flag's, like, you know, main woman who's been kind of like mean. After a montage, she's like, Argus is wrong. I hate Argus, blah, blah, blah. I was like, this just kind of feels like a character rush, you know? Just a little bit. And then it ends where the 11th Street kids form Checkmate, where, you know, it's like a security service. And Bordeaux, judo master, and I can't remember the guy's name, but the cop who has bird blindness, he joins. Which it felt so like, there were a couple hints of that cop, you know, he's an asshole, but he kind of had some like, oh, okay, he's not fully corrupt. But seeing him just automatically after one montage join them, same with the lady, I was like, this feels kind of cheap. And then Peacemaker gets kidnapped, and basically Rick Flag wanted to use the portal to find an Earth-like planet to dump metahumans on as a prison planet, Salvation. So they dump Peacemaker there, and you hear a bunch of like weird, you know, monsters coming towards him, and it cuts off. And I just kept thinking, okay, you know what? I guess it's closed off enough, and you've set up another season. But as from what I've read, they don't plan on making another season, and that these character stories will be, you know, continued in other DC properties. And so I'm thinking, are you going to bring Salvation back into a bigger play, and Peacemaker will be in a movie and meet someone? Like, I guess, sure, but it felt so abrupt. And I went, so you wasted, you know, each episode is like 35 minutes. You could have probably made each episode an hour, organized it a little bit better with the whole, like, characters turning against Argus and just ended it. Season one, I felt like ended in a way where you could watch season one and go, okay, done. If you never made another season, that's perfect. It was the story that was the season is done. It's closed off. And if you wanted to explore more, there's potentially some things because they basically ignore it anyways. At the end of the season one, he has like visions of his dad that he killed. And then in season two, there's just like a three, like a one sentence. Oh, remember how hard it was to work through your dad, visions of your dad? And they just blew it off anyways. So it was like, oh, okay, it's not like you really care. Um, I just felt like, I'm a little annoyed that as much as I love the character stuff and the emotion and the heart, you wasted so much time to because you're such a simp for I guess 80s music that you just want to have licensed music and concerts nonstop. Like we get it. The flashbacks, they kissed on the boat. She's been having, mixed feelings and that's been the whole thing. But I don't think we really needed to spend half the freaking episode about that. And this is just me. I'm not saying my opinion is the ultimate truth or anything. This is just how I felt. Even my wife was like, "What the hell was that ending?" But overall, I want to see more of the Peacemaker character, and they did a good job just going from the Suicide Squad to this of making him such an interesting, flawed human with problems, and he can't just solve, even though he's muscular and witty, he can't always solve things by being witty or even just by pure strength. It's working with a team and realizing that he's not alone and, so many things and growing and learning off his emotions and the emotions of people around him. So that was very good. Just not the best ending in my opinion. Uh, but yeah, I don't think there's really any more to it. Overall, not a bad season. Maybe kind of a weak ending, but good effects, good gore, good action, good heart, dialogue, and just interesting stuff. It makes me curious to see what more will go with the DCU. And so, would I recommend it? Yes. Obviously watch season one. Honestly, just watch Suicide Squad, then season one, then this to get the full picture. And I think it's good for people who like superhero movies, but even people who don't like superhero stuff. It's different enough. Like my wife was very against watching Peacemaker, and now it was like, hey, when's the new episode of Peacemaker coming on? We'd watch it every Thursday night. So, yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Tell me in the comments, on the things that you disagree with, things you agree with, things that could have been better, things that could have been cut, things that could have been added, whatever. Again, I'm not saying what my opinion is the ultimate truth. This is just how I felt watching it. So, until next time, that's going to be it. Thank you for watching. I'm out.